Oh, there goes.
Hey guys, Cat Angel. I am going to wait just a second. Oh, yeah, it's working tonight. Yesterday, or David went, the last time I was on, it showed me as being live, but it wasn't popping up in the, it wasn't popping up in the, like we were actually live. So I'm really glad that worked. I had made a backup just in case it didn't. But yay, it did work. So I'm going to. Hey, Albert, does anyone know Jake's does Jake have a Twitter?
Yeah, Jake has a Twitter.
Could you tag him on it? Because I for some reason I couldn't find him on Twitter. Hey Clancy. And I'm gonna just wait a second. No, Alice, you're not too late. So far, you guys, we have Spirit Wolf on panel, and we have Irish Albert. And I don't know if anyone else. I've sent a couple. I don't know if Map is still going to join us tonight, but Pearl is on. She left for possible like hurricane complications, so she went and is visiting home. So she's spending time with her sister, enjoying herself. And I think Steve-O asked me for, I don't know if he was looking for a link for mine or if there is somebody else going live.
No, I don't think there's nobody else live.
Hey, Shazzy. Shazzy, I got your message about that thing. Sylvia and Albert, I'll tell you when we get off stream about it. But I won't go into it here. But I did get that, and I want you to know that the information you provided is the modus operandi of that purple demon person. You two know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay? So, yeah. Anyway, welcome, Shazzy. Of course, Clancy, Irish, Alice. Hello. I don't think I've seen you before. If you're new, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. You guys, please tweet this out on your Twitter or social media, because I think it's going to be kind of a cool and interesting talk. Now I was telling Sylvia this before we got started, that back in the 70s, when like everybody kind of like with during the Manson stuff, it was like peace, love, rock and roll, hippies, everybody back in those days, like they hitchhiked. That was a huge thing, even just for fun. Probably older teenagers or like 18, 19, 20, but sometimes runaways and things like that also hitchhiked. But then as the Manson stuff started and the women that were disappearing, as far as they pretty much figured that they had what we now know as a modern day serial killer, with the girls that were missing, okay, that then later were found to be a part of the. Hey, Steve Yoakum. Then he muted. Steve Yoakum, undo your microphone.
I don't see anybody named Steve Yoakum. Where?
You know what? It could be.
I just see a black hole. Where?
I see the black hole too, just in time for paranormal. Well, serial killer slash. Oh, look, let's be real. Right.
I see a black hole.
Serial killers are not normal, so it's out of the normal. It counts. And these two know this is like the other night. I've done Ed Gein, Charles Manson, And I don't just do like straight up paranormal, but like I don't just do only ghosty stuff. I've done crystal skulls and all kinds of different interesting things, and I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. And then, if you guys read the novel of a description under it, what I am going to do is after we talk about kind of this particular serial killer, then I am going to we're gonna make some notes about names and numbers. Like there's a certain amount of number of people that Ted Bundy said that he killed, and then there's some information that he told a reporter that was gathering information and doing interviews because they were going to be writing a book on him, something that he told them. And those two numbers do not match. So when we get to a point that we're going to start with turning on a spirit box or doing EVP or running an Ovilus, the reason I'm doing those at the end is so we can listen for any of the actual names that were involved in that case, things like that. Because Ted Bundy was born in 1946, and then he was put to death by the electric chair in 1989. So that would make him, if he was alive today, I am not great at math right off the top of my head. So if y'all are, Steve Yoakum, I know you probably have that answer.
He's about 63.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be about 63 if he was alive now.
And you know what? Wait, thank God he
isn't.
No, he'd be older than that.
No, wait.
Now he'd be older than that. Let's see.
1946. So that would make
70.
He'd be almost 80 years old.
78.
Well, yeah. My mom was born in 1931, and she was 45 to 66. She would be 88. So he would have been really old. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I just got oh my goodness. Map sent me. Let me send Map a message. Are you coming to panel? So how are you doing tonight, Steve Yoakum?
Okay. My pie won't come on her. She can't handle all this.
Oh. Yeah. Hey, she did the Charles Manson the other night. She did all of you. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I love it. It was great. Okay, well, you know what? I've said it a million times before, and actually, since most of you guys were there pretty early on in my streaming, I don't care if I stream for 6 people or 60 people. So, and a lot of people are not getting notifications like until after the stream ends. So, yeah, it happens to me a lot too. I'll see someone that I really like that was live, and I'm like, how did I miss that? Like, how did I miss that? I believe Witchy is going to join a little later when she gets off work, and Fire Witch was supposed to come on panel, so we'll see if LT, if you're watching this, there is a link to the Hangout in chat that's got, I think, Yumi and Witchy. So if you'll check that, you know what? Let me go see if I. Yeah. Any of you guys have Fire Witch on Facebook?
No, I don't think so.
I don't either.
Now I don't have Jake on Twitter.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Well,
Uh-uh.
hopefully that's why I'm kind of like pussyfooting around here. I said that just for you, Stevie.
Yes.
I was waiting for
Pussy.
Friday. Let me go look and see if I've got Fire Witch on my. What is? Hold on. Oh,
Tacos.
Tacos.
Yeah,
I also want to do a shout out to moderate extremists. I just got your email. Somehow it made it into that little other box for some reason. So don't think I didn't remember you. James Griffin, I don't know if you're in chat yet, but I know I'm waiting on an address for you. And I did just notice, I'm not going to say this person's last name, but Karen, if you're watching, I'm just now reading your message about some paranormal activity you have. So I will give you a call tomorrow if that works for you and talk to you about what's going on. So, how are you doing tonight, Sylvia?
I'm doing good. Had a pretty good day today.
Pretty good day?
Yeah.
Good. What about you, Albert?
I'm doing good today.
Good.
Woke up a little rough, but it's straightened out.
Right, now it's almost 9. Now had all day to calm down, right?
Yeah.
After I woke up, it all got straightened out too.
Yeah, we're talking about a totally different thing. Right.
Albert.
Let me see. I'll send it for Fire Witch live show now. LT's probably streaming over on what's the name of that gaming site?
Oh, Twitch. He's on Twitch.
Twitch, yes.
Or, yeah, Twitch, yeah.
Okay, and then also, where is?
I think LT's in the chat room.
Oh, okay. See, I'm
said,
over
Cat
here.
woke me up.
I woke you up. Aw, well, now
there he is.
I shot you a link. Hey, LT, welcome. Irish Reaper Man, hello. Nancy Stevens. See, y'all snuck in when I was clicking around trying to share this everywhere.
Steve-O, the bacon man.
Irish Steve-O's there. She never got a notification. Yeah, see, he was saying he's been notifications,
Steve-O don't want to leave his hair out of it. Tacos.
Stay away from the tacos, or don't. I mean, well, because we know what kind of tacos you're talking about, so you might want to stay in those.
I love the soft shell tacos.
Oh, hold on. LT, Witchy said that Fire Witch wanted to come on panel for this one. Maybe she thought it was a different day or something, and then Witchy was also going to join, like, maybe after she got off work. But okay, Witchy had to do overtime. Okay, so she can't come. So, well, it's just us chickens. Which is and the 10 people, special people that came to the live show. Hey, Irish Dragon Lady.
Hi, Irish Dragon Lady.
Oh, text message.
Yeah, Reaper Man's here too.
Reaper Man.
Alice wanted to ask a question. Does anyone here do communication from the other side, like legit? Yes. Well, it's safe to say I know that both Albert and Sylvia do, because we're paranormal geeks. Now, if you're talking about mediumship, in not spirit box, EVP, pendulum, things like that. I do, and I think Sylvia does as well. I mean, don't both of y'all do a little bit of that?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
does that.
We do it together and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're yeah. You know, I think a lot of the time, also, the longer that you do like spirit box communication and things like that, the more open you become, the more messages that you're going to start getting. I've known lots of people who started out with spirit box and then over the years have absolutely opened that channel within their mind to be able to do that. So, yes, Alice, absolutely. And there's never don't ever feel too shy to ask a question because all of us are always willing to answer no matter what question. There are no stupid questions. And if we don't have an answer, we'll find one for you. So, all right. Getting into the topic for tonight, one thing that came up the other night when we were doing the serial killer show, Jake Jonas in chat was like, hey, it'd be really cool to take each one of those and do an individual show. So I also thought, as did like Albert and Sylvia and many other people, are like, yeah, that would be really, really cool. So that's what we're going to do. And I am going to, again, tie in some stuff for my paranormal people after we talk about this. And then we're going to do some spirit box, EVP. There are different nights. It just depends on how it goes, but we'll for sure be doing spirit box. So, Alice, and I like the smaller group of people because then I can really like Spirit Wolf and Albert. We can all like interact with you, Steve. Someone has a question, we can see it really easily. So I kind of am really fond of smaller group of people in chat because it's more personal, kind of. So, so I really like that. Now, I do want to tell y'all what is coming up real quick. Starting, okay, tomorrow night, if you will click on my channel, you will see, I think, Albert, you're coming tomorrow night too on panel, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I know Spirit Wolf is. And so is Choctaw Girl. And we're going to be talking about soul contracts. So, you know what? I will go. You will see it in. I'll pop a link in this. I'll pop a link here. Give me 2 seconds, and then you guys can read a little bit about that. It's a really cool topic, and one of the things also after we talk about them, I am also available to do readings regarding soul contracts and why, even though a lot of people don't remember what reasons they might have chosen to come back and do life a certain way. We talked about that a little bit on the last show. But if you are not necessarily tuned into those reasons, that is something that I do. As far as if anybody ever wants to book to get a like past life / what is my soul contract, or why am I going through some of the things that I go through in this life? So tomorrow night is going to be soul contracts. And then in the spirit of that being about our creator and God and angels and all of that, I am going to be doing some oracle card readings and some messages from your angels oracle card readings and some charm casting. So tomorrow night will be really fun all the way around. Sylvia, do you do cards?
Yeah, I do the angel cards. I used to do tarot, but I stopped that.
I like the oracle and the angel cards. Like, I really resonate with those. So maybe Spirit Wolf would be willing to maybe pull some on her end too for you guys. I'm going to try to talk her into that. She likes cat. But anyway, it will be a fun night tomorrow night. But
Hello, Matt.
Matt, hello. How are you?
Matt.
I'm doing okay. How about you?
Doing
Matt.
great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm late.
No problem.
Mhm.
We're just
That's
catching
all right.
up on what we're going to be doing tomorrow night. And then here's going to be my upload schedule. You're going to have uploads on my channel on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays as far as uploads go. Then there's going to be 2 shows a week. One of them is going to be the remainder of the people that people requested on the serial killer list. And then the other show is going to be my usual SLS camera, haunted dolls, haunted objects, you know, all my creepy stuff that we all love so much. Some Tuesdays coming up on the 16th of July, I'm going to be doing angel grid and angel card readings in the afternoon. So start to look at the channel and you see all of the live shows for the next 30 days. I feel like we did tonight. Let's see if there's anything else to. If you guys are not subscribed, please subscribe to people on the channel. That would,
Quiet that frog down.
Hold on.
okay. The
That's
doggies
Pearl, Raven
probably
Hell.
are hearing. Right? They probably hear the sirens or something, and then they'll, you know, that they're super
who that-
really good alarm clocks.
She needs to
What?
feed that frog.
Great.
Hey, Flo, that was
Those
Pearl.
are fighting words. Yeah.
Mhm.
Map has named all of the dogs, given all of us like one of her dogs as being like our personalities, and it's really pretty funny. That's my little charm casting bowl over there. If y'all,
And the top
Jake
dog over
Jonas.
there on that pile. Yeah.
Jake probably got bombarded by, hey, Jake.
Hey, you playing?
See, we
You
were
playing with my daddy pot?
That's right. Inside here are the charms for my charm casting, which we will be doing some of tomorrow. But tonight is Ted
Yeah.
Bundy. Now, okay, let's go into a little bit because oh no, Jake, I'm so sorry you're not feeling good. Well, you know what? if you feel bad and you need to go lay down, don't worry about it. Just because we're going to be doing these like once a week for a hot minute. But one thing that like a lot of us know about Ted Bundy and a lot of yeah, right, Jake, getting the demons out, eh? Like one, like when I do shows like this, kind of like what Jake said, everybody, you want to go back and you want to get a lot of fine details, because when you're trying to kind of evaluate, well, what do we think about this particular case? I was starting last night and then all today. I have probably watched 7.5 hours of stuff on Bundy, on the specifics. And there were a lot of things that I did not know. And it does kind of like what we were talking about on the last one. There seems to have been an interesting shift in Ted Bundy's, the way he was murdering people and some of the things he was doing to his victims. So that also is, it made it really interesting to me because of the things that he started to do. So, and some of the things that he brought up in his interviews with journalists that were wanting to write books, FBI that was wanting to build profiles on serial killers and later, closer to when he was going to be executed. And LT, Ted just needed a hug, right? Seems like he got quite a few of those, but clearly it didn't end well for the person giving the hugs. So, you guys, y'all, I'm gonna let y'all take over for just a second and just talk a little bit about whatever you want to on this. I'm gonna grab a Dr. Pepper because y'all know I need my Dr. Pepper, and I just found mine was out. So I'm gonna grab that, and I'll be right back. Spirit Wolf, you're
I'm here.
now. If the doggies haven't, one of y'all just take the reins.
Last time I took the reins, I had to marry her.
Or jokes are good.
Yeah. Damn it, Albert.
Well,
It's a deep subject. Let's go on.
I know. Too deep for my shallow mind.
Aw.
I can't.
Which one?
Aw. I've been, I was going to try to read up more on him today, and I've been all over town.
Oh, come on. I know y'all people got something to talk about.
I got something to talk
Oh,
about, but
Helen.
whether it's just not
dear.
cool to talk about. Yeah.
What all did I miss? I hate that I missed the stream, by the way. Hate it.
No, just
Nothing
really
really.
starting out. Yeah,
I'm
just
gonna
really
get
starting
a
out.
drink, Pearl. It's Ted Bundy tonight.
Ooh, it's Ted Bundy. Mr. Charismatic himself.
Yeah.
Picking up hot teenagers on the
Yeah, he
beach by
wasn't
telling them he's a photographer.
He wasn't very charismatic in the end, was he?
Well, I mean, no, he still was. That was the thing. I mean, he was so charismatic that he had people convinced that, you know, even from jail, that they had the wrong guy. Up until the very end when
Yeah,
he
but he
finally
tried.
started confessing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he would only confess to one person at the beginning, and that was one of the guys who interviewed him.
Yeah.
So, from a totally different state because he was caught in Florida, right?
Yeah.
He was held in
Yep.
Florida at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this guy had to
Yeah.
fly in from out of state to interview him. And I think what they decided was he was trying to prolong his life by coming
Yeah.
clean, but he was doing it really, really slowly. And he thought that the governor of Florida would give him a stay since he had started confessing.
Bush.
And the governor of Florida was like, "Nah, we know you're done. You have this much time, and if you ain't done
Yeah,
doing
you're
your
done."
confessions by then, you're just done."
Okay, I have my Dr. Pepper now. Yeah, Pearl is right. And I was telling them, I don't know if you were listening, Pearl, but I did the entire limited series on Netflix that had all of the interviews with him and all of that. And then I had already seen the movie with Zac Efron, who played an awesome Ted Bundy. But so I got 7 hours fresh on my mind, and it really is quite interesting. There were a lot of things that I learned that I didn't know, which is going to be where it's going to be an interesting point of like how some things changed. I'm trying not to give away what it is that I'm gonna...
we haven't even really started talking about it yet. Damn.
Oh no.
What have y'all been doing on here?
Well, I started 7 minutes
I
late,
don't know.
and then
Not you.
there were like 4 people, so I was kind of waiting for everyone to join on. I was trying to get links to the people who said they wanted to be on the panel as well. So we were just kind of chitty-chatting until...
Y'all see how shit don't run smooth when I'm not around, right? Y'all see this.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Did you come through Tennessee, Pearl?
Yes.
Huh?
Did you come through Tennessee?
On my way back from New York, I sure did.
Well,
Is that where you are?
Yes.
I rode right down the Blue Ridge Parkway, or right down near the Blue Ridge Parkway.
You should have hollered.
Dang it, I didn't know, or I would have, because I went by and saw Joe in Bristol.
Oh, did you?
I sure did.
Oh,
We had lunch with Joe.
Oh, I thought you meant that you saw him again.
Oh no. This trip I'm in North Carolina, in central North Carolina. I ain't trying to hit the mountains this go round.
Oh, well, let me how is everything going back at home?
The storms are just starting to move into our area. Unfortunately, the storm is coming in to where we're going to get the heaviest bands of rain. Y'all, for real, pray for New Orleans. Like my house, like I said, my house is going to be fine. My house is good. Where it's at, we're okay. But New Orleans is going to suffer, y'all. Bad. Real bad.
I had errands to run today, and then I was finishing watching, and then I was getting set up. So absolutely everybody send your prayers out to everyone in Louisiana. Have they had, has hubby had any issues with power at all yet? Pearl? She'll be back.
Yeah.
But
Pearl?
Pearl.
Your Pearl?
She'll be back. She's just in a bad spot.
All right. One thing that I said I was going to do at the beginning of every serial killer show is I was going to, a lot of times when, like, paranormal, whatever, we do a show, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll pull a couple tarot cards just to kind of see what things are going to kind of come, what the tone is for what the communication will be later. So that's what I'm going to do first, and then we're going to jump right in to Ted Bundy, who, by the way, at this point has to be one of the most interesting serial cases. Like, I'm all about serial killers and watching everything about them. I've always been into it, but man, he was complex and a genius. Hey, Katie Holte, thanks for popping in and saying hello. And I will take a look at that link that you sent me. And serial killers give you the EBGBs. Well, you know what? I can't even say they give me the EBGBs. I just find them. I'm all about like the human condition, like the mind and what drives people to do those kind of things. It just, psychology was something I wanted to go into. So I was up to 3 years of college for that. One day I may finish that, but I don't know. So let's go ahead. It's about a cat rescue. Well, I'm all about cat rescue and helping animals, so I will definitely share that link. So let me see what the cards say for the tone tonight. Or does it, how, if any, does it like apply to this? So let's take a look here. Interesting. Okay. Just a second. Yeah, it is pretty fascinating. Really? I don't see anything that indicates anything intense for tonight. It pretty much was the 3 of Swords reversed, 4 of Swords upright, and 2 of Swords. This may be, I may have inadvertently been thinking about one of y'all, and it could have totally ended up applying to one of y'all. So I'm going to actually put these aside. What I am going to do is I'm going to grab, this is a really cool deck. Y'all saw it on my camera, and it's kind of a like dark oracle deck. Some of the cards are really cool. So we'll pull from that because it's kind of a creepy little oracle deck. So, and y'all probably see there's a few little oracle decks on my, hey, see, we were waiting for moderate extremists too. I'm not even gonna lie, I was kind of waiting for Jake and moderate extremists. I was like, I don't know if I can just start this without them. So, all right, let's see what this says. And then we shall jump in. Fragmentation. Boy, that's very applicable to Ted Bundy. I would definitely say he was a fragmented human being, and that's saying it nicely. So, let's touch on, I will give you a little bit of information as to if somebody is watching now and they don't know just the short version, then we'll go into some of the real interesting things about it. But Ted Bundy was born in 1946, and then he, I think it's a pretty well-known fact that he was executed, and that happened in 1989. And he's a really, really famous serial killer, and one of the reasons is because he was very much like, was like you or me. Like, a lot of people referred to him as being quote unquote, just like us. No worries about being late, moderate, extremist. I did get your email, but I got it today because it went into a spam box. So I did not forget about you. So Ted Bundy was raised in a very not hyper religious, but a Christian household. He had siblings. He was not known to have been raised with violence in the home or didn't come from a broken family. Didn't, like a lot of the things you see with some serial killers that had a lot of violence in their home and stuff. But there again, he didn't share a lot about his family, and his family, one of the things that was kind of interesting to me is right before one of the guy who was a journalist that interviewed Bundy in jail for a very long time in order to get information to write a book. When that book was about to come out, he thought, out of respect, he should go and talk to the mom and dad to let them know about the confession, some of the confessions that he had made to him. And because those details were going to be in the book. And his mom had never heard any of this because Ted Bundy claimed innocence all the way up until, as time went on, like I heard Pearl say when I was in the kitchen, that he started to want to share, like, okay, I did murder this person and their body's buried here. So in his mind, he thought it would be another way to delay being put to death. And that did not work out for him. But, like, I think I heard you say, Pearl. Pearl?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to be sure you're... Because we couldn't hear you earlier a little bit.
Well, that was because my signal went out.
Okay, that makes sense. But, you know, a lot of times, like in this day and age, there's some times where if there's a serial killer that has victims, when if they start to speak about like where the bodies are buried and things, and that brings closure to a family, that they will kind of put off the execution so they can help those family members get peace. But in this case, he went to court more than 2 times, but he went to court after he got the death penalty. He then was brought back in court for another murder because the investigator in that murder said that the double the life sentence meant the quicker and more probable would be for that person to indeed be put to death. Because really, he wasn't on death row as long as we see a lot of people these days. I mean, there's some people that have been on there 30 years. So the one thing that stood out to me, okay, so he's this guy, good looking, charming, well-spoken, highly intelligent. Wouldn't you agree, Pearl? Like, he was
definitely
way above the average intelligence.
Well, I mean, they went as far as to appeal to his narcissism and as his intelligence goes to get him to help with other serial killer cases.
Yes, that is part of what I was watching in the 7 hours that I watched about it, because in the 80s, that's when they started to develop they started. There was a lady. I can't remember her name right now for the life of me, but y'all would probably recognize her name if I said it. Yes, we're talking about Ted right now. It sounds like we're talking about you. No, Jake, we are not talking about you. No. He was so smart and had murdered so many, by his own admittance, people that they wanted to study him. So as they were compiling these profiles, the FBI, they could ask. In other words, there were things he still had to offer, which in a way, I kind of wish that they would have gotten more information from him about himself. But the public and the judges were not having it. Okay, like nobody was going to put a stop to that execution. So even though the FBI, they put in a word to please allow them to get him to help with profiles, but of course that didn't happen. Now this lady that was studying, they were doing MRIs, they were doing different things, studying the brain of somebody who does this, also to compile information. But that is one of the times that he was able to actually leave solitary confinement in order to go and get some of those tests. So I really think he maybe could have been studied more and possibly helped give more information into the insight of his mind and how it worked. Because as far as you or I would go, he definitely appeared to be just like you or I. He got a college degree in psychology on top of all of this. He was going to also be a lawyer, but then when he went to take the LSAT, he did not pass it, and that also is something that kind of derailed him. Oh my gosh, yes, Jake. By the way, well, I know you're sick, but if you want to come on, we'll get you a link if you want to come on and talk about it.
Hold on.
But I know you're not feeling good, so just let me know. Okay.
Was you talking about the psychology?
Yeah, he had a degree in psychology.
I mean, the woman that did the profile on, or the diagnosis on him.
One of the people that was doing that profile was a person that was developing a system by studying areas of the brain to see what, not coincidences, but what area of the brain on this serial killer versus this one. And then they started to make different levels of psychotic, so to speak, and different profiles. So I would imagine she was probably a psychiatrist with also study of neurology and the brain. So the one thing about him that seems to have started his downward spiral was there was a woman. There were two. Did he get his degree in prison? No, he never did get his degree in law, but he knew more about the law than a lot of lawyers, which is why he defended himself in court. But that part is coming up. So, yeah, Jake, the thing is, he was so egotistical and narcissistic that they suggested that he plea on grounds of insanity. But he himself said, I am not insane, nor Do I have any level of insanity that would make me unable to stand in court? So I think that would have been something like that was beneath him in his mind. But when you hear about some of the things he did to his victims, I would definitely say he was insane, but not criminally insane to the point that he couldn't, stand in court. So thank you for stopping by, Alice. Tomorrow night is Soul Contracts. So that one's going to be a cool one. So I hope to see you tomorrow night. Thanks for coming. So there was a woman named Diana that he had a very intense relationship with. He talked about it as being he romanticized it very deeply. And this is not the woman named Elizabeth that he almost married. This was like his first, he was crazy, but not unable. Yes, exactly. He was not unable to care for himself as far as being insane. In fact, quite the opposite. So the first woman that he fell in love with was what we would call like above someone's station. So he was brought up, let's say, middle class America, and she was very, she had been brought up with the finer things in life. And he always talked about that he felt like the reason that she broke up with him was because he couldn't give her all of the things that she was previously used to getting. Like he couldn't take her shopping to buy a lot of material possessions, or as he put it, he couldn't go parade her out at fine restaurants. And yeah, she was from a wealthy family. She had dated men that previously had done that. He refers to her as having perfect parents, a really nice car. These are all his words. Having a really nice car, having nice things, was very smart. And she was the one person that he says gave him the ability to look at himself and say, I really want to be something. I want to make myself better for her. Made him feel so good about himself that he wanted to do more than maybe he previously was going to do in life. But then, I don't know if y'all noticed, it got dark in here. Like, okay, the snake's light just went out, and that's a brand new light.
I noticed that. What is that? Yes, that one thing in the center with the candle on it. It's moving.
It went darker. Oh, this. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna take this little candle off it to see if this ends up. Here, let me ask a question. Okay, was that anybody that had to do with like Ted? Well, if it read my mind, it said no. So we'll watch that and see if that moves.
All right. Jake, if your fever goes up to 103 and you can't get it to come back down below 103 with medicines, take your butt to the doctor.
I demand to see the puppy. See, there her is. This is Bookie. Mama's laying on the pillow and she's too comfortable. But here's Bookie. She looks like a little tiny gremlin.
Gremlin.
Like she where are her eyes? Yeah. Do not feed the mogwai after midnight. So
Right.
Bookie, we want to see you and you, Mama, but you blend more. All right. So after this woman This is the way he explains the breakup. It was the end of a summer, and he was in college, and she was doing whatever she was doing. And she stopped communicating, like writing back, because back then, of course, there were no cell phones. So she quit communicating. It got less and less and less. And he stated that he started to become very jealous and very paranoid about what she might be doing. And then all of the communication stopped. And he said that summer was very, very dark for him, and that he absolutely didn't remember that entire summer. Like, he explained that he doesn't even remember it, and that he remembered thinking that about vengeance, about wanting to get vengeance on her for hurting him so badly. So he didn't date. His mother said he didn't date, and people that went to school with him, he did not date girls in school, even though he was charming and good looking. He really didn't. Okay, weird things are happening with the lights here. It's like, okay, that's not weird for here, but a little weird. Okay, in the snake light, that's really weird. So I think that because, okay, later on, he was diagnosed with bipolar mania, bipolar depression, and bipolar that had anger involved. Now, back then, they probably didn't have the same as they do today as far as the diagnosis about that. So that is how it was actually listed in his psychological records from the psychiatrist that saw him. But that wasn't until later after he was convicted. So those things were discovered. So, but I also know a lot of people who have bipolar. I have a lot of friends who suffer with that. And they definitely, after a breakup, don't go out and start murdering people. So clearly there was a darker aspect, or possibly some of the psychiatrists that saw him, especially that lady that was starting to build these profiles, she didn't get to do as many tests as she wanted because people really wanted to know in the psychiatric profession, did he have something pressing on a part of his brain, like a tumor? She got to interview him, but she didn't get to do any x-rays or anything like that, which is something that she had wanted to do and to see. So there are some people that do things like that, and they come to find out afterwards that they have a tumor on that part of their brain. And he openly says he did not feel empathy or anything like that for his victims or really for anybody. The only person that he says he felt love for was the first girlfriend, Diana, and then the second one was a girl named Elizabeth. And that ends up being important because they were together from the time her daughter was 2 until she was like 7. Oh, no, she looked to be like 8 or 9. So they were together for a while he was going to school and she was going to school. So they had this wonderful, like, love in this relationship and this pseudo family. And everything was normal, and he was romantic, and he was caring and very doting, and he cooked, and he did all of these things. Yet he was murdering people while he was with her. So the way that it came about for the first, like when it became apparent that something had happened was they had been coming up with, somebody had drawn a sketch, like when somebody, there was one victim that got away from him. It's the only known victim, female, that ever did get away from him. And yes, I do, Jake. I do believe that was a big one. But wait until you may already know, because you probably have already been looking at it. But do I think he killed women as a way to get back at his first love? I think there was definitely an aspect to that. But like I said, even people who suffer with bipolar and things like that, when they get their heart broken, they don't go doing that. But clearly something else was going on with him. But he hid it so readily, they were never able to diagnose him with something more serious. Hey, Choctaw Girl. Choctaw Girl's going to be on panel tomorrow night too. So when he was with this Elizabeth person, with this amazing, loving relationship, they had everything in their sex life was fine. Everything was normal. In fact, it was awesome. And one of the women, what he used to do, there were people who saw him, he would wear a fake cast on his arm. And then he would drop something, or he had some kind of a small sailing boat, the kind that you can put on top of the SUV, and he would put it on the ground. And then when a girl would come along and he was in a cast, then he would ask them to help, or he would say his car was broken down, or he had a medical emergency. And then they would get in his car, and then that was the end of it. But this one girl got away. Somehow or another, she got away, and she went to the police, and they did one of those sketches. And when they started to put that out, one of actually the girl that was best friends with Elizabeth, which was the second girl that he was with for all those years, who had a daughter, she said, you know what? This looks like Ted. And she was like, oh, everybody looks like Ted. You're all American, good looking, kind of boy next door look. But no way could that be him. He could never do anything like that. And so she ended up calling the authorities. Okay. She didn't really believe it was him, but her best friend was like, look, you have to call, because they were putting things out on the news. If you know anyone who looks like this. And so she kind of said that she wanted to prove that it wasn't him. But the girl said, what if someone else were to get murdered and you didn't say anything? So she called the FBI or the law enforcement and said, my boyfriend looks like this. And he was in Utah or Seattle or wherever it was that they ended up, the girl had gotten away from, wherever that state was. He had been in that state when that happened. And inadvertently, it was because of her call that they ended up, yes, they caught him in Lake Six Stores. Oh, what, Lori? Get out. Lori said they caught him in Lake City, 6 stores down from her best friend's house. Whoa, that's creepy. Yeah, and it was that in Florida, Lori? Because he murdered people across 10 states. Okay, California, all along that coast, coming down in to Florida, which is where several of the last people, the women, were killed. But he had, now here's the thing, Jake, what you were saying, here's another reason why I also think that. Oh my God, he was in a normal relationship completely. Even more so, one of his good friends was Anne Rule, who is an American true crime author, very famous, very smart, and was friends with him. She even said, there is no way that Ted is guilty for this. Because this, and then I'm going to tell you how they ended up catching him. So she makes this phone call, and it was also, the girl had explained that he drove a Volkswagen Beetle, and I think it was orange. And so they had done, you know how they do. They go and they look at everyone in those areas that have a Beetle. Oh my God, Jake, yes. And worse. So wait until you so when they picked him up, wherever he was at the time that they picked him up, which I guess from what Lori said was in Florida. When he was in Seattle, he used to take his victims out into the mountains and dispose of them. So when he moved from there to Florida, girls started disappearing in the town and around the area that he was in. So when his girlfriend called in and said that, hey, this looks like my boyfriend, and they said, well, where do you live? And she said, Florida. Then it was like, okay. In all of, like, some of the ones that they did find, the murdered women, they all had some very similar aspects to how they were murdered. So then all of a sudden, he's there, they get this phone call, and they bring him in. And this, they go and they do the lineup, and where you've got like 7 or 8 men standing there. And the girl who got away pointed a finger and said, that's him, that's his voice, that's his face, that's him. And of course, he was so intelligent on every level. He had like an answer for everything. Very, very, very convincing. So they put him in jail, and his girlfriend isn't aware he's in jail. But then they started printing out the newspapers, and that's how she found out he had been picked up. He, of course, didn't like make a phone call and go, hey, I'm kind of being looked at for kidnapping and attempted murder. So when they let him out on bond for the kidnapping and possible murder, you know, they weren't holding him in jail yet because they had to go to the grand jury to see if they were going to indict him. So she reads about it, freaks out on him, which any of us would have done as well, and convinces her it's not him. Well, something else happened, and they went ahead, when they indicted him, they set no bail. So they took him and put him in jail immediately. Well, he decides that he wants to help. He doesn't have money. So the lawyers that were going to be public defenders, he decides he wants to help to be his own lawyer, which is really stupid and crazy in and of its own right. So he ends up, the judge has to allow it. So he has like other actual lawyers helping, okay? And When both your best friends are streaming simultaneously. Yeah. But like I said, like usually the people who come to watch this don't, they don't, some of them like paranormal, but not all of them. Oh, Steve-O's streaming. Cool. So anyway, I read that and then I got off track. Okay, so he's allowed to go into the law library because he's doing his own defense, and he notices that there's an open window in the law library. So he wanted to escape to go tell Elizabeth, "Look, this wasn't me. This wasn't me." So the jailer guy that was kind of not watching closely, clearly, there was some girl that was there to see Ted Bundy in court, because all of the majority of the people that came to watch this in court were women, young women. So, oh yes, yeah, Jake. Yeah, Jake's done his research on this. So he's there and the window's open, and this guy, the guy that is watching him, starts talking to this really pretty girl, and he kind of doesn't pay attention to what Ted's doing. So he jumped, it was like 2 stories, he jumps out of the window and he goes and finds Elizabeth, and he tells her, "I didn't do this, it's a mistake, they're going to prove that I'm innocent." Yes, he did, Choctaw Girl. And oh, there's some, and worse. So he goes back, he gets put back in to jail, and he gets indicted, and then he's going to court for this. And then also he escaped. But then a police, he didn't make it far. A female police officer is the one that saw him. She was around a bush or something and saw him, and then got him, put him back in jail. Okay, so he's in jail, and he's having these crazy days in court. Like they said, he was very erratic, which with the bipolar makes sense. Sometimes he would go off on these really weird tangents that in no way did him any favors in court. He starts to see that things are not going very well, and he's starting to see that there's a real possibility that he might get convicted. So he starts trying to figure out the number of, how many steps it would take if he were to get out of the jail to get to point B. Then he started to run, I think it was 3 miles. He got in perfect physical condition so that once he got out, he could run the 3 miles to get to where he needed to go to escape, which might have been near, I don't know what it was near, but he planned all of this out in his mind. How many steps it took for the guards to get from this part of the hall to the next part. What time they did the light. What time they checked on inmates. He was plotting this out the entire time. So he escapes a second time. He cut a square. You can see the pictures if you go and Google it. He cuts a square out of the top of the ceiling tile, and he goes up through the ductwork and stuff, and he escapes jail. Okay, so this is the second time he's escaped. As soon as he escapes, this is where a lot of the way that he killed got really bad. I'm sure there was some of it before this, but this has got really, really bad. So he gets out of jail, he escapes, and he is out there for 45 days before they actually catch him. And he goes to a sorority party. And of course, there are younger girls there, college-age girls. And by the way, all of his victims, if you go look at them, they all look like that first girlfriend and the second one, because he continued to pick girls that had long brown hair. They were very similar looking to Diana, which was the girl that broke his heart, that seems to have set him off into this path of revenge on women. So he kills, I want to say, 2 or 3 sorority girls. And as he was leaving the scene of the crime, there was a girl that came in and saw his side profile. And he had on a kind of a ski cap, but it didn't cover his entire face. And the one thing, if you go look at Ted Bundy, is he has like this super straight nose that almost goes out to a point. And it was like something, first of all, she did hear his voice and she saw his side. You know, like if I saw one of y'all walking down the street and I saw you from the side view, I could probably identify you as being you. And one of the other lawyers that were assisting him in his defense, he was his own lawyer, cross-examined this girl and did a fantastic job. Like, if you were on the jury, that lawyer's cross-examination of that eyewitness being a very important thing, he didn't like that he wasn't getting the attention in the courtroom and that guy was doing the cross-examining. So he stood up in court and told the judge, I'm firing him. He's not letting me be the part I want to be in my defense. And so he fires him. The guy like storms out of court, leaves, and this girl positively identified him. So now we have two things going on. He was in jail when he escaped the second time. He was found guilty of the first one, and they were going to give him like 15 years. But then while he was in jail, they came to find out that he had been in the same, one of the other murder victims. When they got Ted Bundy's car, they found fibers of her clothes in the back of, in the trunk. They found like tape, rope, like all of the things you would crowbar, all things clearly that were going to be used for something really bad. Gloves, ski mask, all of that. And when they tied the DNA in, it all matched. The carpet fibers from his trunk were found on her clothes, and then the fibers from her clothes were found in the trunk. So it was like very good, solid forensic evidence for the day. But here was the other thing. The girl from the sorority house, when they found her body, he had bit her. Like, he had bit her on her breast, and then he had bit her on her butt. And he not only bit down, but then he reopened and bit down again. And one of the officers said it was the most like vicious human bite that he had ever seen. Of course, a lot of people in those towns don't see these kind of really twisted crimes. And he had strangled her so tightly that her neck was like more than half its size as far as around, because he had strangled her so hard. When he pulled her underwear off, he pulled it off so hard, it like, there was like, you know, like you would get rug burn or whatever. But here's where the case took a turn, and this was really big deal back in the day. They took dental molds of his teeth, and when this specialist, this dental specialist, compared the bruising, you could see each individual tooth, and they matched up perfectly. So that's when the jury, that's when they think that it really, before that, he kind of seemed like he was really convincing them he was not guilty of this. But once they saw these dental bruises and they pointed to all of the areas that matched exactly, that's when it really took a turn. So he does all these antics in court, and it goes on and on. He would even, after that, he would shove toilet paper down in the toilet so it would overflow in jail so that he would have more time to get to court. And after a while, the judge is like, look, stop with the antics or we will start without you. And so he called him to the carpet and everything. And Ted Bundy did not like being called on his bullshit. So they go through the trial, and the jury comes back and they find him guilty. And then his mother gets on the stand to try to plead for his life. But because of the heinous circumstances in how he murdered his victims, the judge gave him the death penalty. Then came another case. He was still saying he was innocent. In the second case was the one with the sorority girl. They had so much evidence that they were able to convict him on that. And he also got the death penalty for that. They even extradited him from the prison that he was serving time in to the other state because the circumstances were so horrendous as to the way that he murdered these girls. So fast forward, he's in jail, I want to say coming up on over 10 years, and he starts talking to this journalist that wants to write a book. But he will never talk about he wouldn't talk about himself in first person. So for some reason, the journalist starts to talk to him like, well, let's just talk theoretically. Then Ted Bundy was able to speak in third person narrative. Once he started doing that, like saying, well, if it had been da-da-da, this is what would have happened. And that was some weird thing that ended up really unlocking his psyche. And he started to open up about all of this. So at one point, this journalist says something about, okay, how many people, as it was getting closer to the time where he wasn't going to be able to interview him anymore and they were getting ready to do the book. And he said, well, he had previously admitted to like 30 people. And then in speaking in third person, he says to this journalist, look, if I were the person, it would have been 3 digits over 10 states. What, honey? A pencil sharpener? I think your one's in there. Isn't the pink one still in there? But I don't have a pencil sharpener. The one with the crank on it was in there. Where was I? Steve, somebody. Let's see. He was, anybody in chat? What was my last sentence?
He was in the third person over the 10 states.
The interview.
Okay. All right. So he says, you know, if I were to have been that, it wouldn't be 30 as in 30. It would be more like 3 digits over. So like he was saying hundreds. And that they speculate that it could have been up to 300 women over
Oh my
this.
God.
Yeah. And so then as it gets closer to when he's going to be executed, he comes up with this thing of, you know what, maybe if I start to lead them to bodies and this, that, and the other, they'll let me live longer. So an FBI guy comes, he's doing the profiling, also wanting to get information for future criminals. And he starts talking to Ted. And Ted starts to admit to the murders. And yes, what Lori said, not only did he strangled most of them, as far as like part, almost always at some point there was strangulation, but he, at one point, one of the victims, he had used some kind of object, so like, I don't know if it was a pool cue or some kind of object like that, that it ruptured her internal organs. And then he admitted to cutting off at least 12 of the quote unquote 30 that he would admit to. So he cut off 12 of their heads and he kept them in his apartment as mementos of it. But it gets worse. He then explains that he was a necrophiliac. He was having sex with the dead corpses, even the ones that he beheaded. Some of them, he said that he kept them alive for days, and he took them out into the mountains up in, I believe it was Seattle. Can't remember the name of it's like Snohomish County or something similar to that. And he would take them and he would bury them out there. Does it guess you're hovering over the mute button? No, it doesn't. Well, yeah, it gets a little worse, but not by much. Not only would he keep them alive and continually rape them and torture them, but in some cases, he would go back after he would cut their head off and he would have sex with them up into the point that animals started to, like, until they became to the point that he couldn't physically. Like, once the more advanced stages of decomposition happened, or animals started to eat them, he would go back for days having sex with the corpse. So that's not how it started out in the beginning, though. So over a period of time, it got worse. And when he escaped from prison, those were the ones that were really bad. It's like he was an animal. He then also told them that there were other voices, although he was never diagnosed with schizophrenia or anything like that. He did say that he would talk to the voices in his head. But he also told the FBI guy, look, I was never criminally insane. He said, let's be real. I did these things because I wanted to. Period. And so that is the nature of his crimes. Needless to say, when it came down to the point he was going to be put in the electric chair and killed, the FBI agent was sitting across from him, and he said, "You know, I'm not going to let them kill me. I could take this pen in my hand right now, and I could shove this in probably the jugular vein, if I'm not mistaken. And I would bleed out before anyone could even get to me to help. And then I'll die on my own terms." So the FBI guy's like, "Well, you can do that, but at this point, you've already done all these heinous things. If you've come to ask for God's forgiveness, you know, you could have a chance at going to heaven. But if you commit suicide, then do you really want to push the envelope?" Like, these were his exact words. And then Ted said, "Yeah, you got me again." Because this FBI agent came to really, you know, he was getting in his head, even though Ted thought it was all about him. It really, the other guy had control of it. So, moderate extremists. There comes the rest of the in map left. This is the part I really was wanting her to give an opinion, or maybe it was that the thing got so intense she couldn't listen to it anymore. Okay, but at one point he also was telling the FBI guy, he was talking about a lot of the people that he talked to in prison that murdered and raped women like he did. He said that they all had some sort of an addiction to pornography, and that, you know, they kind of speculated that he was maybe trying to just blame it on something else other than himself, or that truly was the case. And then, of course, a lot of them had mental illness, they had violent backgrounds and things like that. But it seems to me, when I got, and it wasn't until like my 5th hour of watching this, that I was like, oh, wow. It got worse as to how he would kill them and the amount of things he did to their bodies in cutting their head off. I mean, don't y'all think it takes like a special kind of fucked up, to cut off someone's head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the necrophilia.
Oh my God.
That's yet another level. But he told the FBI guy that a lot of people that do things like this are evil in the sense that they might be, he actually used the word possessed. That at some point, did his crime not morph into, you know, we talked yesterday, the day before yesterday, last time I streamed, about infestation, oppression, and possession. Now, this guy, prior to me hearing some of the later ways he treated the corpses and the people that he murdered, my thing was like he was a serial killer. And what Pearl just said, the force it takes to get through the ligaments in the neck and interspinal spaces, yeah. I wonder who Pearl's dummy is. I don't know. But the one girl, like I talked about, her, like, imagine the size of your neck. You know how hard you would have to squeeze to get the neck to be half its size?
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that you see with full-blown possession is superhuman strength.
That would make you think that he was using a garrote to twist it and stuff.
What is a garrote, Albert?
It's where you get a rope and a stick.
Oh,
and you make 2 loops and you start twisting.
okay. Yeah, Jake. Ultra.
You're better off using piano wire.
Well, he did use wire on some and nearly
Yeah.
decapitated them with that. But to look at him, he wasn't like this big muscular guy. He looked like he was maybe about 5'7", 5'8", slight build. Just very. He was definitely a narcissist, 1000%. But he's, it's kind of like you've got Eileen Wuornos, and she, was a prostitute, and she had had some pretty severe things happen to her, like as a prostitute, that men did. And she said that, that is when she started killing men, was this one trick that raped her. Even though you may think, a prostitute can't be raped, they can. No is still no. And this guy beat Eileen Wuornos up so bad, like within an inch of her life. And then he took her to a group of college age men that raped her. And so she started killing for that reason. Yeah, the men screwed her head up, and that's one we're going to talk about too. But so kind of like Eileen Wuornos was so abused by men in such a vicious manner, she literally wanted revenge, and that's what she did. But in this case, Ted Bundy really only experienced a woman breaking up with him. So whatever was wrong with him, that he thought it was okay to kill somebody and keep killing as revenge, that I think that does make you, like, just because, let's be real, guys, there are, oh yeah, Jake, yeah, you're right, there isn't any proof of that. And much like Ted Bundy, you've got his version of things, or the way he started to spin things. He could have also, in some things that he said, been trying to make himself more useful alive than dead. But there definitely were women that were decapitated that they found that he admitted to. And in the end, he gave, like, if you go and look at his list of the people he admitted to killing, the 30 people, he knew their names. And they, at the end of this movie, they showed all the victims' names. Then there were some Jane Does. And then, like, one of them, he told the guy, okay, this is what I did. I cut her head off, and then I buried it like 500 yards from this exact spot, and they went and they found it. So he definitely, like, he didn't just like bury them in these random places. He probably kept notes somewhere, or maybe he was just smart enough he remembered where. Well, and clearly then he also kept some of their heads. But it's super creepy. When he was executed, he asked that his ashes be spread over those mountains where he took those bodies and did those horrible things, because he said those were some of the best times of his life.
Oh my God.
Well, that was in the Stashua, wasn't it?
I think you're right. Let me look at my little... Let's see. It was in... God, he had charges in Colorado, in Florida, in Seattle. It was somewhere in Washington. I think you might be right. But
Mount
you know
Lanier,
where?
it's Mount Lanier or
Mount. If anybody, let me look
be
and see.
right back.
Oregon. It was the mountains in Oregon.
Oh,
I can't remember what the name. If anyone knows, or
Lake, what is this?
Snohomish, or
Samish State Park in Estashua.
yes, that is it. You know, I can't remember. Does I wonder if that's another thing that Zach Bagan has in his haunted museum. I know he's got Kevorkian's van, but I'm gonna have to look that up. Mount Rainier overlooks Seattle. I think it was in. I'm not. I can't. I just. You think I remembered it because I watched 7 hours today, but yeah. Did you know what? Let me look that up. If he did. Okay. So in chat. See, Jake is really logical, and I really like having Jake in on the conversations because he always brings up these really good points. As far as like Eileen Warnos, do we know that particular incident happened to her? No. Do people? Ted Bundy never said like I was abused as a child, or this woman broke my heart, or he just says that he did it because he wanted to. And being good friends with, and having a degree in psychology too at that. And he also talks about the fact that he didn't pass the LSAT for law school as being something that also influenced him. So I don't know if prisoners get to have their ashes sprinkled wherever they want, but I'm about to. Jake said usually they keep trophies to relive the murder. Yet it seems to be in a lot of cases they do. Dumping his body in a septic tank, that seems like that would be reasonable to me too. And then Moderate Extremist said, if porn influenced sickos, then I can't imagine the effect now because it's everywhere. Plus, movies like American Psycho are everywhere now. I agree with you, Moderate Extremist. In that movie, oh my gosh, that movie was intense, American Psycho. If y'all haven't seen that, go watch it on Netflix. But be prepared, it's pretty brutal. If the family picks them up, Pearl said. Otherwise, prisoners are scattered in massive ash graves. So let's go look that up.
In Kentucky, they at the state reformatory they take them to Chicken Hill.
Oh, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You know about that. Okay, it was the Cascade Mountain. I just looked up where it was, and let me see if it says that. One of the weird things, when that guy that they wrote the book, when they went to the mother and father, he said that when the guy played the tape of what Bundy admitted he did to some of the victims, that the mom was making these little squeaky sounds. She was not like breaking down or bawling. She was crying, but she was making these whimpering sounds. And then when he was done, he said, do either of you have any questions? you know, like anything that I can do to, you know, anything before this comes out. And he said that the mom stood up and said nothing. They neither parent had any questions. And she said, "How about apple pie and milk?" And they sat down and had apple pie and milk, which I find to be a little weird.
Uh,
That doesn't seem like a normal, empathetic response. If I was the mother of a child that did that, I'd have completely lost it.
Mhm.
So that was one thing that they noted was really weird. But other than that, Bundy never said anything about his childhood. In fact, he said he had a normal, loving childhood. But there again, you know, things go on behind closed doors you don't know about. Oh, and the other thing that he did, and I find this to be really weird, is there was a girl that he knew that was completely in love with him, and her name was Carol. And she was like probably the only person in the world that thought he was innocent. And while he was in court, right before he was convicted and sentenced to death, he asked her to marry him while he was questioning her about his character on the stand. And when she came to visit him in prison after he was convicted, she ended up getting pregnant. And she spoke on it and said that there were guards there that after a while, they really just didn't care. So they were off screwing in like behind the Coke machine, literally. And she got pregnant. So he has a daughter, and her name is Rose. And she's like currently about 34, but nobody knows where. Well, somebody named Albert Sutz said hello, Kat, which I'm. If do you any of y'all know who that is?
yeah, I know him.
Okay, so I can leave it.
Yeah, he's a damn
Okay.
butthead.
All right. Well, because I was about to say no, Albert doesn't suck. But yeah, they would like. It's your experience that sometimes prison guards will look the other way, or maybe they get paid off or something?
No, not the ones that
No.
no.
Well, they did, and there are all these pictures of him and his little girl and her in jail for like family whatever, but nobody knows where she is. Like, no, you know, she probably changed her name, and you know, you will probably never know that. But it does. I always find it interesting, you know, to wonder if that kind of psychosis or, well, but he never really exhibited psychosis, you know?
Pearl's right. There's always assholes in the bunch. Where if I'm around and they was doing that, they wouldn't have been doing it because everybody would have been held accountable for what
Right.
would happen.
And this was, you know, this was in the 80s. So, like, I thought that was interesting that she was able to get pregnant while, you know,
What was it? He was also in the Green River area where all the murders took place and stuff.
wait, where?
In Green River.
Oh, really?
And then there was another guy that started killing there.
Wow. Yeah, you know, I'm with you, moderate extremist. Somebody should have paid the guard to off him. And you know, that does happen in jail sometimes. Not that guards do it, but what they do is they, like child rapists and stuff, they look the other way because people like people who are pedophiles do not they don't do very well in prison, from what I've heard.
Yeah, it's like inmates would call home and give the names of the people that's coming in just
Yep,
to find out what they're charged with.
right.
Mhm.
And then if they're like sex offenders or anything like that, it's like it's open game for them.
Don't drop the soap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've also heard that there are people that will put money into people's commissary and stuff, and guys who are in there for life, you know, they'll murder someone in many cases. Oh, Choctaw Girl. See, she's got to be on the panel when we do Jeffrey Dahmer. But that's right. He was murdered while he was in there. But, you know, he got a sharpened broom. Yeah. Yeah, he did. And, you know, you would think that I was going to say that, okay, like what Ted Bundy did was bad enough. What he did to the corpses and this, that, and the other. But the necrophilia, I think that takes you to a whole other level.
Yeah, that's just, he's evil.
I think that shows control and stuff, where he buried the victims and knew where they was at, and then going back to
and then, right, like, you know, I think that. Okay, so then let me ask you, do you think there was any level where he started to do these things? Because he talked about like different things that were sort of evil in nature, as far as is some of the things that the voices and stuff were telling him to do. But do you think, see, prior to this, I didn't know what I was walking the fence on. Do I think that he could have had any sort of attachment? I think in the beginning, no. But I think as time went on, again, we talked about opening the doors. And then he was behaving like an animal in the worst way. And they're trying to say, well, because that woman broke his heart, he wanted to control women and he wanted to get back at them. And yet people who have necrophilia that do that, it's because he was wanting an intimacy, which I don't even know where they got that theory. I just think that that's very weird to me. Like very. Wait, what? Who had battery acid drilled a hole in his head and dumped it in the hole? Who?
Damn.
Oh, that one. What was it? I think he's talking about that kid that ran out of Dahmer's house, and the police thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Forget the kid's name.
Gosh.
Instead of checking it out, they just released him back to Dahmer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
The police should have been tried on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really evil. So, you know, it kind of makes you think. You've got Ted Bundy is like, there's nothing caused this. I just wanted to do it, which I have to kind of give a little credit on that one because, hey, a lot of them say, well, it was because of this and this and this that happened to me growing up, and then this and this, and he was just like, no, I wanted to do it, and so I did.
I think the first time he murdered,
relationships were normal. His other relationships were normal.
First time he murdered, I think it gave him a rush, and he wanted to do it again.
Oh yeah.
And then it got can
Yeah.
you imagine what the girlfriend that he was with for like 8 years, like that would mess you up. You know, like he's out there raping, having sex with corpses, he's murdering, and he's perfectly normal with you in every way. Never violent, never anything. And okay, now Jake, that brings an actual good point.
That's where the involvement came in, his techniques of murdering people.
So then, okay, like what I think like Jake is saying is, well, the rush wasn't enough, so then they become more violent and more daring, and they have to do more to get the rush.
Yeah.
Versus, well, I opened this door, so I then became actual possessed, and then I really started to do fucked up shit. You know, like moderate extremists. That's what I was saying. Your heart gets broken, or yeah, you put yourself out there. Everyone goes through that. So with him, does anyone ever think that some of these people that do these things, that are the ones that are highly intelligent, are just next level intelligent? So they're so smart that they start to do that because life bores them that much. Like, I've read some books on that. Yeah, Jake, that's right. Some killers admit to, a lot of them totally achieve the big O while killing, which is, something's miswired in that brain.
I think he thought he would never get caught. He could lie himself out of it and stuff.
Well, think about it. Look at how long he did get away with it. And a lot of these girls were not runaways. They were not, they were from good homes. They were not like prostitutes. And well, actually, I don't actually know the breakdown of every single victim because I didn't get that far, but I was going to, but then I ran out of time. I literally finished the last little bit of everything for the 7 hours like 20 minutes before I went live. But I think Jake, egomaniac. Yeah, you definitely. And Ted Bundy was completely an egomaniac. Like, he was, and the fact that he basically, I believe him when he said to that guy, well, the number would be more like 3 figures, not 30, but if it were me, or if I were that guy, the number would be more like da-da-da. Which, to me, that's an admission, and that's before he started admitting that he did these things. So I would be willing to bet that was because he wasn't admitting to things at that point. So when he said that to the guy that was writing the story, I would have to say that was probably more the case. It was probably hundreds. And where he was getting rid of the bodies, nobody will find them. If he didn't tell them where the bodies were, the ones that he took out to the Cascade Mountains, then, no one's, if he didn't tell them, and it wasn't like the sorority murders and stuff, I don't think, anybody, because that's huge. And who knows where he went. And it's sad that a lot of those people now know likely how their loved one passed away. And
It was like he turned into like a apex predator where he lured them in and then went out and killed them the
right.
way that he did.
But you know, when you look at something like let's say Dahmer, people are like always were like, that guy's really creepy, you know. And like we talked about Manson, another charismatic, but people didn't describe him in exactly the same way they did Bundy. I mean, he was, call it like nobody saw it ever. I wonder what kind of next level intellect that takes to get away with that. Oh, I mean, you saw a lot of criminals. Like, kind of give me your overview on what you think.
Well, there's to him it was like I think he liked it. Like Jake said, there were 7 active serial killers at one point in the U.S. And maybe he was tracking the serial killers, and maybe he was competing with them.
You know, I would imagine to someone like him, I also think that the kind of fame that he ended up getting from that was pretty an incredible amount of fame from that, and he relished in it, and he was a control freak for sure. So I wonder. Yeah, okay. Jake said you need to kill 3 people to be considered a serial killer. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't know that. It's kind of, you know, so do either of you guys think that, like, moderate extremists mentioned earlier, like that if pornography was any aspect, which by the way, I don't buy that at all, that if you have a pornography addiction or whatever, that it's going to lead you to do all of that, you know. I'm sure there are statistics regarding, like, if you've got serious schizophrenia or psychosis and stuff, that could be a contributing factor, but I don't think that causes that in any way. But
I think with them types, they usually expose themselves, and then it works their way up to, like, bumping into females and stuff with the hanging out and stuff.
so do you think that now that things I have a text message, do you think that with everything that you see now, that you actually see, like, you've got video games that are very, very violent. You have a lot of violent, now you have snuff films that are easy. You can just get them. And it's like everything is so desensitized now. It really makes you wonder if all of everything that is so readily available now, if there were serial killers then, does anyone in chat or anyone think that could lend to more violence?
What, with video games and stuff?
Video games, the kind of violence you see, like even against, like, women on TV and HBO and Netflix, and I mean, it is definitely more extreme than, like, when we were growing up. So Jake said he has a question. Could any of you sit in court with the killer who murdered your family member and not try to attack the killer? No. I would probably no. I would. I don't know what that says about me, but I would not be able to. No, I would like probably jump the thing and be like, I'd be like a monkey on their back. Like, what about y'all? I kind of know what Albert's probably gonna say. I don't know. What did you?
I would be the one to make a phone call to the prison to some of the inmates.
Right.
To get ready for him.
Yep.
I would be getting it. Yeah.
I'd want him suffering long and hard.
Yeah. I would have to wait to see what his facial expressions are.
Right?
Yeah. Whether or not he's...
Do you think that if the punishment for things fit the crime more in our country, there would be less murder? Like, they're getting cable TV, they're getting college degrees in prison, they're getting 3 square meals, health insurance. Like, I mean,
yeah, I know.
If you steal in the Middle East, they cut your hand off. If you steal again, they cut both your hands off. If you steal a third time, you get like stoned to death. Like, now I think that's a little extreme. Don't get me wrong, but
what I've seen that most cases is the prosecutor making a plea deal with the inmates or the defendant. It was like there was a case where a guy went and killed his family, and a 4-year-old got in the dryer and hid. And the guy left, and he remembered that girl or the little toddler wasn't there. So they went back and he killed her.
Right.
He found her and killed her. And they plea dealt him, and he got life in prison.
Do you think the death penalty is more of a punishment or life in prison?
I think with death penalty, they have, you could, you know that at some point in his life, it's going to end with them executing him.
Right. Right. Or like even like in many places they don't even do the electric chair anymore because it's considered cruel. Well,
yeah, inhumane.
In the days of kings and queens, they would put you on a rack and like you would have really badly. So, you know, I don't know. I think that in some ways, there's not strong enough deterrence, and some people, again, sit on death row for 30 years and stuff like that. I got to give them that. They did put him to death quicker than most. And I completely agree. Not all prisoners deserve to be treated badly. I completely agree with you. And I think there are a lot of people, depending on their crimes, that can be productive citizens. And in fact, in many cases, I think that some records, depending on like drugs, things like that, I don't think that prison is necessarily, you know, a place that someone needs to be. I think that sometimes because people's records will keep them from ever getting a job, they continue to commit crimes because they can't get hired anywhere, or they can't you know, and so I think that our system needs more balance, like in that area.
Yeah.
Like if somebody gets busted for like marijuana, I really don't think that prison is a place that those people need to be.
No.
Personally, just my personal thought. I think that the tax dollars, what you're going to end up spending it's like a crazy amount of money that goes out to taking, like the amount of money. If someone's in prison for X amount of years, what the taxpayer will pay for that can be a really big amount. So, well, let's see. Lust has never been known to be a good thing, as far as I know. Moderate extremist says.
What is it?
He said lust has never been known to be a good thing, as far as I know. Well, I guess it depends on, you know, balance. And you know, I wonder if at some point one day they will be able to look at. You see some of these sci-fi movies where eventually they'll be able to pick out a gene or something in your brain that might say that you could do this or that. And I bet that happens one day. I bet. And I don't think now that's kind of scary if you think about it. Well, you might be prone to do this. So we're gonna what's the name of that movie? The one with that girl and she jumps off the train and it's like a futuristic thing. And it's super popular. Why can't I think of the name of it? Like in the future they put people in, like if you're an emotional, they had a name for it. If you're psychic, if you're this, that, they in the way future, they put you in those categories and you live in different places based on that. I bet that happens.
What's
the name of it?
The
girl from the Hunger Games was in it.
Not the Mockingbird, but
it's something it's
Mockingjay or shit.
Come on, y'all. Someone in chat.
I don't remember.
They had like 3 movies. It has
they did like 3 movies. Yes.
Sutherland in it.
Yeah, yep. It had Sutherland in it. Dang it. If one of y'all in chat remembers what it is, then let me know. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, like I said I was going to do, tonight let me pull something up here. We have a number that he supposedly did, but I think it's way more. And we know his name is Ted. The girlfriend that he was with for 8 years, her name was Elizabeth or Liz. The first one was Diana. And we know other key things about him. So when I flip on the spirit box, I want to see if we hear anything that corroborates some of these names or things. So for those of you who are in the paranormal, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I'm always curious if the spirits on the other side, like when I did the Charles Manson one a long time ago, right after he died, that was Asti's suggestion. That one, that Bundy show I did. The Manson one. And you actually heard a voice that very much sounded just like him. Now, I also am curious because I don't like following a ghost box versus leading it. So if I ask a question and it gives a direct and intelligent answer, then that's what I consider a positive, not positive as in happy, joy, joy. I mean, if some of you guys are watching and you're like, what does that mean? Follow or lead? You should always, like, if you flip something on and you hear different things, then you try to tie something into it, versus if I were to say, what was the number Ted Bundy told them and it said 30, that would be relevant and intelligent. And no, do we know who or what we're talking to through Spirit Box? No, nobody can. Anybody who says, oh, this is completely, definitively what it is, we won't know until we're on the other side. So if I ask, okay, what method was the death penalty given to you? And it says electric or chair, that would be intelligent and relevant. So we're going to lead the session versus follow it and then make a narrative out of it. So even though I know Jake is not necessarily like a paranormal type, can you try to turn that snake light on and off? Like right when I started talking about Ted Bundy and stuff, it just went, I can't see you because the light is blowing out. Like I can't see you. Yes, I hear it clicking and not working. So, that's really weird. That shouldn't have gone out that quick. All right. Do you need anything, baby? I'm not going to be on that much longer, honey. I'm trying to keep these different shows like. What do you want? You are? I thought maybe you would use that apron to protect you from the paint. Are you using acrylics? Good. Huh? Isn't that Home Depot one? Yeah. Okay, that'll be cute, baby. I love you. She was like, she's totally into IDTV and like true crime as well. So she was like watching a whole bunch of this, and she's a total realist. She knows how evil the world is these days because she's an empath and has similar abilities to what I have. So we had a lot of discussions about it like during the day. So now that for those who might be new to this, like Jake, yeah, it's a Hunger Game movie. Dang it. Yes, that. God, that's gonna, if anyone like remembers that along the way. So, hey, Lady J, I only know you're there again because Pearl said so. And you're not in any block list of mine. So I'm glad you're there and I wish I could interact with you, but welcome to the show and thank you for coming. So now I'm going to go ahead and let's flip on a spirit box. Let me try to get the fan away from that. Just a second. Hey, Susan. Let's see. HP knows who they are. He waits 5 minutes after they die and loads. There's audio in his computer before he extorts the family. Yeah. I just heard a really weird noise. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and turn on the spirit box, and I'm going to ask some of those questions like what I just said, and let's see. Okay, this is what we do. If you hear something definitive, if you will put an asterisk and then the word or words you hear, that's a way that then as far as you guys, the listeners, if you hear something, denote what you hear with an asterisk like this. Why isn't my thing going? Okay. That means when we watch back, we can see what, if anything, you guys hear. I'm not going to tell, I will sometimes tell you, oh my God, did y'all just hear that or whatever? But I want y'all to tell me what you hear. Okay. Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm ready.
You said, are you back? Yes, I'm back. All right. Spirits. I just heard 10. You guys have heard what we're talking about. Who is the serial killer we're speaking of? It's a Sparky. Ted. What was the name of Ted Bundy's first girlfriend? What was the name of the girl he dated for like 8 years? He just said, are y'all hearing that?
Yeah.
How many people did he claim killed at first? I keep hearing names. How many people did he actually kill? How many? What was the one thing that he did to his victims with their head? Yeah, I heard Diana How many of them did he actually decapitate? I heard 12 before it even came out of my mouth. What was the name of the mountains where he took and disposed of them? What kind of car did you drive? What kind of car? What color was your car? Orange. Dude, I just heard it say orange, by the way. I'm going to ask again, what method of execution did you receive? What was the name of the thing you sat in? What was the name of the true crime author that you were friends with? And I heard and that sounded like his voice as well. I'm hearing his voice.
He said, "Yep."
Yeah, moderate extremist said orange. Can y'all think of a question? Albert, Sylvia?
What city was you caught in?
I saw it. Can you say it again?
Which city in Florida was you caught in?
Wow.
I think.
Why did you kill all of these women? There was something there, but
You say it felt good?
That's what I thought I heard.
what Albert?
I thought he said it felt
Felt
good.
good, yeah.
You guys in chat, don't forget to put your phones in. How old was the youngest girl that you killed? Say that again. How old was the youngest?
5. 5?
Where did you go when you died? Hearing that devil word.
Did they ever find all your victims that you murdered?
It just said Ted. Did they find all of the victims?
Turn back.
Turn back.
Hello, Ted.
She said no. What is the name of your daughter? Rose. I'm tripping. Can you say that again? Did you ever experience possession? Yes. I'll tell you when you said you were going to kill yourself before they executed you, what were you going to do it with? How did you escape the first time? What did you jump out of? How did you escape the second time? What is your question going to be, Albert?
Ted, what? Wait. Ted, how did you escape the first time?
I thought I heard jumping in there.
That's it.
Ted, how did you escape the second time?
Something up. What was your last name, Ted? What was your last name?
Okay, I hear a little child.
I keep hearing that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Who is the little girl we keep hearing? What is your name?
There she is. Say your name again.
It's safe for you to talk. What was your name?
Duncan? No. There's a few of them there.
Yeah.
What's your name, hon?
I'm gonna look at the list and see. Okay, I found the name of the 12-year-old. Can you say her name? Kim. Did you hear Kim?
Yeah.
Okay, because that was her name. Y'all can go look up on the victim. These are like immediate responses.
Yeah.
Kim, are you doing okay?
I keep hearing beach.
Yeah.
Did you like the beach? Kimberly, what was your last name? What was your last name?
I'll be right back, okay? I'll be right back.
Okay.
I just heard that was
Kim, what happened to you?
Murder, rape, and kill. I'm gonna have to go in here and cut this and annotate. Stop. I see two girls on here with the same name. What is that name? I think I heard it. Can you say it again? There were two girls with the same name. What were their names? Did you want to be caught? Did you want to be famous? Did you just do this because you enjoyed doing it? Is there anything else anyone might want to say before I end this session? How many spirits are here trying to communicate? I keep hearing a lot of people. How many spirits are trying to communicate? I keep hearing 8.
Did you say 8? Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard 8.
I heard 8 twice. Okay. I see a list of all of the victims that they know of. If you want to do a roll call of your names, you can do that now. It will go back and listen. Okay, I appreciate you talking to us. I'm going to turn this off now. Can you guys say goodbye? Okay. Wow. There were so many direct responses. Like, I'm actually a little blown away. I mean, like, dead on. Yeah, I'm going to clip that and I'm going to upload that ghost box session, because I think there were other things also that we weren't hearing that we'll hear back on recording, but there were direct, intelligent, relevant, dead on responses in that. Like, wow. I'm impressed. That was wow. So for a lot of you guys that heard that, or if you're watching this show back, I'm going to put in the description like when the ghost box session started, so you guys can, if there's some people that are watching, they can go back and do that. But I'm definitely going to edit and clip that, not edit, but I'm going to clip that out and then upload it and do annotation. But that was a trip. Not that I should ever be surprised anymore with Spirit Box, but it does every time. It's like, oh, whoa. Just like, wow. Wow.
Yeah, I kept staring at the crystal ball, making sure nothing was coming in on it.
Yeah, you know, I was kind of curious if anything was going to. I'll probably, you know what? Next time I need to put like I'll do like a candle, an actual candle, like on one side or the other, and see. Ooh, did you hear the dog just barked?
Yep.
Okay, guys. I know I've been on for a couple of hours, and I was trying to keep it maybe to 2 hours, but you know, sometimes we have like the marathon streams. But since I have to get up a little bit early in the morning, and then I've got a show tomorrow night, I'm gonna go ahead and say good night to you guys. Albert, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
And Sylvia. And I will see you guys again tomorrow night. And tomorrow night we'll be doing soul contracts and stuff about that. But then I'll also be doing some readings, and I'm gonna definitely be doing I'm gonna be doing Spirit Box. I'm gonna charge the batteries on all of that and do some things tomorrow that are going to be very similar. Moderate extremists, yes, that was real. So you had tears and can't stop. That modern extremists, that was like that was some very dead on responses, intelligent, relevant, and pretty quick responses. Some like before I could even. Do you ever do Spirit Box, Albert, or see it when someone does it and before the question even comes out of your mind, they answer it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that happen.
And I'm telling you, when y'all hear this back, if you use noise canceling headphones, you're going to hear even more on playback. Number 2, go listen. Trust me, I've been listening to that man's voice on those tapes on Netflix, and I heard his voice. Whether it was him or something trying to pretend it was him, that I cannot tell you. But I 1,000,000% heard his voice. That was cool. So I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow night in chat. And Modern Extremists, I'm going to answer your email as well. And I appreciate everyone coming tonight. And it's up to you guys watching back what you think. And let me know in the description, in the comment section, what your thoughts are. I do have to approve all comments because I don't want like negativity coming onto the channel. So I do approve your comments though. So please let me know what kind of things you heard or what you thought. And if you enjoyed this show, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I would super appreciate you guys subscribing. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. So good night, y'all. And I will see you tomorrow night. See you then, Albert.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.